Can technology upgrades and dedicated specialized video servers lower the cost of acquisition and total cost of ownership?
Yes, might be you start.
Well, total cost of ownership and especially CO2 footprint is really hot right now. And this is something, from my point of view, I believe that a lot of security consultants will be start looking into and designing solutions around where it's not only cost of acquisition and technology what's the key issue, but actually what does it cost to run a CCTV or surveillance solution over the 5 to 10 years that we are looking at, that most solutions are running, and what is the CO2 footprint? Right, we are all living in a climate changes and so on, and this industry needs to take responsibility as well and be part of that climate change that we have right now. Now, one of the things to look at when you're looking at TCO and even cost of acquisition is really the cost per core in a CPU. And the interesting thing is that when you start analyzing that, and as we can see from this diagram that we have on the screen right now, is basically that the smaller processors, which has less core, actually the cost per core is a lot less than when we have very high cores per processor. And one of the reasons for that is that the smaller processors, which typically only have 4 or 8 cores, is a lot easier and less complex to manufacture. And the reason for that is, of course, is that when we have a processor with a lot of cores, there need to be a lot of gates or transistors inside that. And that makes it difficult to manufacture or more complex to manufacture, and that means again that production yield will basically be a lot less than for the smaller ones. So there is a linear, or not even a linear, but there is a relationship between the more complex processors is going to be a lot more expensive per core than you will find with the lower ones. So there's an idea of taking that away. The other thing, of course, is that complex processors with a lot of transistors and so on are using a lot of power, right? And that's where our TCO comes in, because power equals heat, and heat equals AC cooling. And so if we can save on power, then at the same time, we are also saving on AC cooling. So it's basically a double saving every time we do something, right? So if there is a way to lower that, then that would help us a lot. And we have been trying to do, looking at different ways, mainly in around storage. And that where we found is that the higher capacity disk drives, typical based on helium drives, is actually having a lot better power distribution and better power
efficiency.
Yes, than thank you, than the lower capacity drives, right? And now I don't know.
David,
yeah, we see the same thing actually. We see exactly that. From an environmental perspective, the high density chassis are far better. Per terabyte they produce less heat, use less power, etc. I mean, our highest density chassis today is 106 drives with 20 terabyte drives. That's over 2 petabytes. That's very efficient when it comes to your data center and how you're using it.
Okay. Yes, one question. Did you in Fibrenetix ever do a type of simulation to see what really the saving potential?
Well, we did. Yeah, we did actually, and we done a number of them. Just to give you one idea, is that we looked at a sort of an average solution, which was mainly storage, but again, just to make it more simple, of 600 terabytes. And we basically tried to calculate what would the power consumption be if you had 6 terabyte drives, or if you had, for example, 16 terabyte drives. And both offering 600 terabyte. And what we found out is that over a period of 5 years, you would actually save $9,000. Now, that of course is depending on where you live, right? So if you live in America, maybe power is there cheaper. If you live in Denmark, that could be a little bit difficult because we have a lot more taxes and this kind of stuff on power. So that's one of the things you need to take into consideration. The other thing which you need to take into consideration, of course, is the AC. So a lot of our systems goes into the Middle East, where the AC is not only expensive, but it's also, you require a lot of AC. Where if you go to the north of Sweden and put an installation in there, you just open the window and you have your cooling already. So it's different where you are in the world as well, and what regions and so on. But I think that what the interesting part is that if we take the more power efficient drives into account, and if we at the same time also start looking at this enclosure designs, power supplies, efficiency, etc., then you could actually, over a period of 5, 6, 7 years, earn or save more than 50% of your acquisition costs.
Wow, that's
so
considerable.
It's a really something you should look at as an operator, and it's something, again, I would encourage the security consultants, because they're basically adding value to the client that they are designing the system for.